Okay, time to talk about BlackWarGreymon. This one should be the end of the Digimon Friend series. I'm still going to do a video about Geni, but that might qualify as a Digimon friend because he's a friend of the Digidestined, but he's not a Digimon, so I might just qualify that as its own video about Geni. So, this is going to be about BlackWarGreymon, hence why I got Ty's t-shirt up here because it has a WarGreymon on it. So BlackWarGreymon is one of those Digimon that goes from being this enemy to, at the very tail end, becoming a friend. So not quite the way that like happened with Wizardmon or happened with like Digitamamon, but more of a, we see this like character arc and character development that he goes through. So the basis for BlackWarGreymon is that he is created by Arukenimon in order to finally, once and for all, defeat the Digidestined. And she uses 100 control spires to make him. And when, so she comes up with this idea of like, it's like, well, I made, like one control spire gave me this type of a Digimon. 10 control spires gave me, a Kuamon, which was quite strong. These other control spires, so many various combinations of, numbers, they were okay, but they couldn't defeat the Digidestined. So, if I use 100 of them, I can then make them be able to destroy the Digidestined, combine those together and destroy the Digidestined. So that's what she does. We have, her and Mummymon find this area where there are these huge amounts, this 100 control spires that are, still intact. The Digidestined haven't gotten there to destroy them yet. And, they drive to the top of this kind of ridge, and she uses her power, because what she does is she uses her hair, like, strands of her hair come out, and then they, like, form, take over the control spire and, like, change it and mold it into the Digimon. And so she uses, like, her, 100 hairs to, connect to 100 control spires, and then she forces, merges all of them together, and we get like this, the Digidestined kind of see this start happening, and this is when, Yoli flies off to go and find Ken. This corresponds with like after Davis tried to get Ken and Cody to work together, and it didn't work well. And like Yoli flies off to go to get Ken, and this is when she slaps him, and like they're coming back, but like they watch as like the silhouette that you can tell that it's kind of the shape of BlackWarGreymon. The silhouette appears on this ridge, like as the control spires merge together. Like Arukenimon and Mummymon are like driving away from it very quickly, and it forms into BlackWarGreymon, and it's he's extremely powerful. He's a WarGreymon. He is extremely powerful. On top of that, he's made of 100 control spires. And Ken shows up, and the Digidestined just, unfortunately, like, he's able to defeat Paildramon extremely easily, who's this, DNA Digivolve Digimon that's already pretty strong, but, BlackWarGreymon easily, defeats him quite easily, and the rest of the Digidestined just kind of get, like, blown away and, like, all, like, knocked back to their, like, in training forms, or their rookie forms, or whatever the case may be, and, like, the Digidestined are in a lot of, take a lot of physical damage themselves, but they're able to escape. And Arukenimon is, ready to, like, order BlackWarGreymon to go and, like, destroy more of the digital world, finish the job, destroy the Digidestined, and then, go and, start destroying parts of the digital world at her whim. But he refuses to obey Arukenimon and simply flies away. This causes her to faint, like, oh my god, he won't obey. Arukenimon is quite dramatic. She'll get to Arukenimon and Mummymon will have like their own video, or like part of the like Omikawa video. We'll see what happens to that. But because he doesn't want to obey her, because he doesn't want to obey someone who's weaker than him, even if she's technically his creator. And what ends up happening is because kind of the running theory that they have with him is that he has so much extra data from all of these control spires that they used to create him, that he just thinks that, that it kind of developed into a conscious mind and self-awareness and everything, as opposed to the other, control spire Digimon that didn't have any of that type of stuff, that there's all this extra data that, like, formed into that, that helps give him this concept. And at one point he even has this quote where he's like, I defeat my opponents so easily. It's not enough. I still feel an emptiness inside. No matter what I do, nothing seems to fill this void. Why do I feel so empty? And he's just so angry about it and everything. And he comes across, Arukennimon and Mummymon send like a bunch of these Mammothmon after him. And they're each, there's like I don't remember how many Mammothmon, but there's enough that was like together total they would make like 100 control spires that used to make them. And she sends them to try to attack him, and he just like wipes out one whole line of them with like just like a slash of his claw. And like there's like 4 Mammothmon or 5 Mammothmon that just vanish into thin air. And he just is quite overwhelmed. And or it's like he's just so easily able to destroy he's not overwhelmed, but he's so easily able to destroy these Mammothmon that are control spire Digimon. And he keeps posing this question, unable to answer it. Why do I feel so empty and everything? As opposed to these Mammothmon that like mindlessly follow Arukenimon's orders without question. Why is he so different in this case? And during this fight, he notices this tiny little flower about to be trampled by a Mammothmon, and just something inside of him has him protect it. He protects it by destroying the herd. He's like sitting there like just like throws himself on the ground and like covers the flower with like his own body and his own claws to protect it, while the Mammothmon are like stomping on him. And then he just destroys the Mammothmon and protects the flower. And like Arukennimon and Mummymon like leave, and afterward he just begins to question his asks of like, why did I consider this little flower so important? Why did I consider it so important for me to take, to get stepped on by those Mammothmon? Why did that like affect me so much? And he just ends up, he just like stomps on the flower and crushes it under his foot. And then he leaves. A little while later, he encounters Agumon. And him and Agumon, because Agumon points out, well, when I, warp Digivolve, I turn into, a regular WarGreymon. And so it's like Agumon's kind of like using that as an in to try to be able to like talk to BlackWarGreymon. And they like sit and talk and have this, conversation. BlackWarGreymon's a little not very happy with the fact that Agumon isn't quite able to answer his questions that he wants. About, like, why do I have this void in my, why do I feel this void, this emptiness inside of me? And Agumon's like, well, that void that you have, maybe it can be filled with, friends, or maybe it's because you have a heart. Like at one point, WarGreymon asks him, well, where's your heart? And like Agumon's like, touches his head. Says, I don't know. I know that I have one. And it's this very, intense moment between the two of them, and it's beautifully animated. In regards to, the way that they're acting with each other. And, BlackWarGreymon kind of gets slightly confused by Agumon's way of thinking for certain things. Because like BlackWarGreymon is like, well, if I'm incapable of having a friend, then I don't have a heart. And, it's, they're, and Agumon's like, that's not the way that it works. And like Agumon just kind of like tries to talk some sense into him. And at one point they're about to shake hands as a mark of friendship between them. But at this point in time, BlackWarGreymon starts suffering from this like intense pain. That he has no idea where the pain is coming from. And he like flies off to go and find the source. And he comes across this Destiny Stone that is being destroyed by this Digimon that's another control spire Digimon called Nightmon. I will go over the Destiny Stones a little bit more in their own video, but the basic concept of them is they are these stones that are scattered throughout the digital world that help control the balance between the borders between the digital world and the real world. And I think there's 7 of them, and if they're all destroyed, then it like really works with the barriers between the real world and the digital world. And BlackWarGreymon ends up just he defeated Nightmon and destroyed it, and then he destroys the Destiny Stone. The Digidestins showed up, and they were trying to stop Nightmon and everything, and then they tried to fight BlackWarGreymon, but that didn't work. And BlackWarGreymon decides to start making his, his new destiny, his new purpose is to destroy all of these destiny stones. And he starts going around the digital world, destroying them one after another. And at one point, he starts seeing this visage whenever they're destroyed of, like this huge, long blue dragon type Digimon that's like in chains and looks like it's kind of writhing in pain. It's a Zulongmon. And what ends up happening is he starts, destroying the Destiny Stones, of course, one by one, causing more and more damage to the digital world. One of these corresponds when Yoli is in Kyoto, and the digital world gets warped in certain areas that like visages of like BlackWarGreymon and these other Digimon start appearing in the real world. And then Yoli has to, kind of work on getting them sent back to the digital world. And at one point in this time frame, this is also, when Kari and Yoli are able to finally able to DNA Digivolve, and then at one point when they come across one of the Destiny Stones that's underwater, BlackWarGreymon he pulls a Moses, in all honesty, if I remember correctly. He like sends like this huge shockwave out or something that like forces the water to like part, and like the Destiny Stone's there, and like Cody stands up to him. Cody just like stands up in front of the Destiny Stone with, with Armadillomon, or Zidane Keelmon at the time. I don't remember, but he's like standing up to BlackWarGreymon. And he's just like, you don't have to do this. And like BlackWarGreymon looks at Cody, and for a moment he sees like the visage of the flower again in front of Cody, seeing this like this little thing standing in front of him. And he hesitates in hurting Cody. But he still ends up attacking, but I think TK shows up and saves Cody in that case. And in this time also, and then he destroys that Destiny Stone, and then, there's 7, and I think he gets almost all of them, all but the final one. And there's this other time where they end up fighting against him again, and where TK and Patamon, where Patamon is Angemon, and then he, connects with the Destiny Stone, and he's able to turn into Magna Angemon for the first time in a while. And he turns into Magna Angemon, and he tries to use his Gate of Destiny to trap BlackWarGreymon in the gate to try to, send him away. BlackWarGreymon just kind of like, nope, and just like, nope, that ain't working, and like forces the gate back open and gets out. And then in this time frame also, TK and Cody are trying to figure out, okay, well, we have to be getting close to being able to DNA Digivolve because, Ken and Davis can already DNA Digivolve, of course, and have been for a little while at this point in time. Kari and Yoli can DNA Digivolve and, get Sylphimon. And what ends up happening is they end up at this restaurant. I went over this in Digitamamon's video. They end up at this restaurant in like Little China or Little Digi Italy or Little Digi China or Little Digi Japan or something. And they get there, and Arukennimon and Mummymon have made their way to this like soup hot spring thing. And they try attacking it to like get to the soup, and like Digitamamon's there and he stops them. And then, like, BlackWarGreymon shows up, and, like, out of the soup rises the Destiny Stone. Which is apparently why it tastes so good, which is weird. And what ends up happening is the Digidestined try to use their Digimon, use their Digivices to try to, move the Destiny Stone, so that way BlackWarGreymon can't attack it. It doesn't end up working, but their Digivices combined are able to use the Destiny Stone to summon a Zulongmon. And BlackWarGreymon attempts to fight a Zulongmon, and a Zulongmon just kind of like refuses to fight him. He also just basically like, BlackWarGreymon is like this tiny little speck against like this giant dragon, and he just like, ah! And like Zulongmon's just like so much stronger than him. This is where we kind of find out about like the celestial Digimon, which I did not know this until I saw this explained in a different anime, or I didn't quite get the full connection until I saw this explained via a different anime. That a Zulongmon is a reference to this this Azure Dragon, and then like there's the other 4 celestial Digimon. There's 4 of them, and then they can combine into one Digimon. The Celestial Digimon will get their own video at some point. But there's 4 of them. We only meet a Zulongmon in a Digimon Adventure, or we only formally meet a Zulongmon in Digimon Adventure. But like he basically like scolds and berates BlackWarGreymon for like you're doing all of this stuff just because you have no idea what's going on. You could he easily subdues him with just like a sample of his power and explains to BlackWarGreymon that because of all of the dark the control spires that you were made from, that you actually kind of became alive, you became sentient because of all of that extra data. And he, it's also explained that like all of the part of the reason for the control spires is that they were designed to seal away the celestial Digimon from being able to interfere anymore, and that so many of them have been destroyed, and via the fact of then the Destiny Stones and everything, that so much of the digital world is being warped, and BlackWarGreymon is kind of responsible for that. And then BlackWarGreymon just kind of fine. He's just like, fine, I'll try to find another purpose in life that's less destructive, and he flies off. And then and he flies off on his own. Yeah. And what ends up happening is then a little while later, this is after the Digidestined did their Digimon World Tour, and they've dealt with Daemon and his Digimon Core, his Dark Digimon Core or whatever, their Daemon Core, and this is during the time frame when all of the kids have been infected with the dark spores. BlackWarGreymon shows up, and him and regular Greymon, Ty's Greymon, kind of battle. He shows up and he's quite injured, but they battle, and they end up getting, I don't know exactly how to explain this because it's been a while since I've actually technically only seen this episode once, I think, once or twice, and it was like a long time in between them. But like Oikawa, and Arukenimon and Mamimon are like hiding in the real world while like the kids' dark spores grow, and the Digidestined are trying to find him. And what ends up happening is, BlackWarGreymon shows up in the real world, and he tries to destroy Oikawa. He's like, you're the one that made Arukenimon and Mamimon, therefore you're the reason that I exist. And I want to destroy you because you're also trying to hurt the digital world. And like BlackWarGreymon has kind of seemed to have like taken it onto himself a bit to kind of, I guess, try to destroy Oikawa, destroy Arukenimon and Mamimon. And I guess to a degree protect the digital world in that case, to try to make up for what he did. But he tries to fight against them, and regular WarGreymon shows up, Ty's WarGreymon, and like Imperial Dramon Dragon mode or fighter mode shows up, and like they kind of eventually kind of like subdue BlackWarGreymon, and he's just like laying on the beach or on these rocks on the beach, like, fine, I lost. And like at one point there's like this battle going on, and I think it's just between the two WarGreymons, and like Davis and Ken and Stingmon and XVmon are like directing traffic away from what's going on. And it's like the only time where I can actually use this picture just because it's funny. It's like them directing traffic, like, yeah, no, go that way. You don't want to go this way type thing. Like directing people away from what's going on. But then, they show up and they help, and like they help kind of, subdue BlackWarGreymon. And Wormmon, Agumon, and Vmon then all lecture. Basically, Wormmon himself is the one that is lecturing BlackWarGreymon about, you can't blame yourself for this. You were created, yes, but there is an importance to life. And yeah, Ken and I made a lot of mistakes when he was the Digimon Emperor, and I made a lot of mistakes by still following him and by not trying to stop him or trying to make him not do those things. And we're still trying to make up for that. But now we have friends, and we're not just doing it on our own. We have the other Digidestined and their Digimon that are our friends now, and you can become our friend too. You can try to become good. and Greymon, BlackWarGreymon, kind of to try to get more enjoyment out of life, and tries to talk him out of trying to kill Oikawa. And it kind of seems to work. But then we cut to Cody and his grandfather are kind of confronting Oikawa. One of the girls, I mentioned this in Ken's video, one of the girls, her, and I'll probably mention this, depending on how this lines up with like recording and stuff, will still get mentioned with the Dark Spore children. One of the girls, her Dark Spore grows faster than the rest of them, and Oikawa shows up and like drains the power from her. And he's like being confronted by like Cody and his grandfather, and this is where we find out that Cody's father was actually friends with Oikawa when they were kids. This is where we find that out in the series. And BlackWarGreymon shows up, and he tries to confront Oikawa. And like for a moment, there's like this visage of Malamyotismon that like takes over Oikawa's body from absorbing the power from the Dark Flower. And he tries to attack Cody's grandfather, but BlackWarGreymon steps in front of the attack and takes the full blast, saving Cody's grandfather's life. But he's mortally wounded by this attack. In this time frame, that was like Tai and regular Greymon are there, and like Oikawa and like Arukenimon and Mummymon like leave at this point in time, and they witness Cody and I don't remember if Ken was there or not, but Cody was definitely there. Cody and his grandfather were there. I don't remember who else was there from the Digi Dustin besides Tai, because Greymon is there. But where BlackWarGreymon is like, he realizes that like Myotismon cannot be allowed to return to the digital world, because he sees this visage of Malamyotismon controlling Oikawa and like controlling him like a puppet. So what BlackWarGreymon does with his last bits of power, with his last bit of life in his final act, he flies himself up into the air, and like he's like there's data already like leaking out of him for all intents and purposes, and he digitizes himself, and he uses himself to make this like walk the barrier, to seal the gate that's at Heightened View Terrace to the digital world, so that way Myotismon cannot use that gate to get back to the digital world. In the process, he founds this purpose that he wanted, and he dies a hero. Yeah, he caused all these problems, but he's also, like, in his final act, he does, sacrifice himself to protect the Digidestined and the digital world. And, Agumon says, that he's a good friend type thing, to, like, prove that, yes, he was capable of having a friend. And, the kind of the aftermath of that is, like, the Digidestined, because the closest other gate that they have to go through is, like, when, at the end of the, like, in the final 2 episodes, when, Tai and Izzy and Joe and Sora, Tai, Izzy, Joe, Sora, Matt, all trek to, the summer camp with all the families of the other Digidestined, and they're ready to go back to the digital world to try to, they have to get back to the digital world to help try to defeat Malamyotismon, because they have to do that because the gate is, of course, sealed. This also results in when Oikawa tries to use the children to open the gate into the digital world, why it shifts and why they end up in like the weird twisted dream world type thing, where we see that battle happen with the other kids. So my BlackWarGreymon kind of did help in that case. We don't ever see BlackWarGreymon again. I don't even think he's referenced in Digimon Adventure Tri. Given the way that he died, I would not be surprised if it's kind of impossible for him to be able to be, fully, reborn and everything. Although in the games you can get like a black Agumon, or like a variation of an Agumon, and like try to get it all the way up to like a BlackWarGreymon. That is possible. I don't know if this is a thing, but I wouldn't be surprised if it is a thing in Digimon, where it's like if you had like a BlackWarGreymon and like a black Metal Garurumon, and like they DNA digivolved, would you get like a black version of Omnimon? or would you get like something else? I don't know. Again, I just might do like another Digimon video at some point about like weird Digivolution DNA Digivolve combo type thing. We'll see what happens with that though. But BlackWarGreymon, it's like you see this, he is kind of a tortured soul, and he's one of the times where they show this Digimon that it's like he starts out with this purpose of only being there to destroy, to cause harm. And then you see like this conflicting inside of him between like, he tries to protect the flower, and then like he still sees a vintage of the flower with Cody. And then, we see him change, and he does get to the point where he wants to be good. And, he's finally able to do that. He sacrifices himself. He saved Cody's grandfather. He sacrifices himself to, lock the gate at Heightened View Terrace to seal it. So that way they can't, so that way Oikawa can't use it. And, so we still get that. So he still, he still helped protect the digital world. And I would assume that, like, that seal may still be there, that, like, the gate at Heightened View Terrace may still be sealed to this day. Although, admittedly, with, like, the digital world getting rebooted, I don't know if that would mean that, like, the seal would be open again. Like, would the Digidestin be able to activate that gate again and go back to, the digital world via that gate in Heightened View Terrace or not? I don't know. And if that would be the case, then, like, did, like, his data get, like, reused, and maybe he's, like, able to be reborn again, and maybe he'll come back, like, actually get the chance to be, like, a great, be a Black Agumon, and then, Digivolve all the way up into a BlackWarGreymon again, and then, like, maybe find Tai at Agumon and, like, find the Digidestin and, like, be reunited with them. Maybe not. I don't know. I don't know if he'd be at that picnic that, like, I've mentioned in, like, the Wizardmon video, but, maybe. I don't know. That's entirely up to him to decide of, like, I don't see BlackWarGreymon as a picnic type Digimon, although that would be hilarious to see, like, this giant BlackWarGreymon, like, sitting there at the picnic, like, gently picking up treats and, like, that would be hilarious. Although, knowing Agumon himself, I kind of wouldn't be surprised if, like, BlackWarGreymon is, like, a bottomless pit when it comes to, like, food, because Agumon is a bottomless pit. And if I remember correctly, I think this is correct. Actually, let me double check to make sure that this is correct, and then I'll be right back. Okay, so what I was double checking on was I was right. Okay, so, and I just like this because, like, the actor that plays BlackWarGreymon, Steve Bloom, he's an American voice actor in regards to, doing, lots of dubbing and everything. And he voiced BlackWarGreymon in Digimon Adventure 2. Digimon Adventure, he also voices Flamedramon and Raidramon and Magnamon. So he's the 3 Digivolve versions of Vmon for the Armor Digivolve. And then in Digimon Tamers, he also voices Gilmon, Growlmon, WarGrowlmon, Megidramon, Gallantmon, and then, like, a few other, like, miscellaneous characters. I don't remember if he voiced anything else. Well, he's in Digimon Frontier as JP, and his 2 forms, Beetlemon and Middle Kabuterimon, in regards to that. But he's done quite a few Digimon voices and such, but and I'll probably end up talking about him a little bit more when, like, I talk about Gilmon, because that's, like, the other major thing. But, like, Steve Bloom just did, like, this great job in regards to the emotion that he did put into BlackWarGreymon in regards to, like, all this emotion and range that he put into this character that is, all intents and purposes, just, like, this made out of all these control spires. And, his voice makes it believable of, like, BlackWarGreymon having these, like, inner turmoil in and of himself. So yeah, I wanted to point that out there. He's been in a lot of other anime and stuff like that. If I remember correctly, he's also he Spike Spiegel in Cowboy Bebop. So BlackWarGreymon is Spike Spiegel. Just put that out there. I have seen Cowboy Bebop. But the sea space cowboy, and I love a girl that can kick my ass. Yeah, I like that. He's been in a lot of other stuff, and at some point I might do like another video where I talk about do some other videos like where I talk about some different anime voice actors and such, and I'll probably talk about Steve Blumman and such because he's got some good stories for some of his characters. But so that's what I have for BlackWarGreymon. That should be the end of the Digimon Friends series for Digimon Adventures. Down the line, I might do a different one for like Digimon Tamers, and then for like Digimon Frontier and such. But there's not quite as many in those ones, but because there's only like one season of each of them. But I'll do, and like I've still got a few other ones that I'm gonna do. I still have like some other like the evil Digimon. Like I still have to do like Urkenimon and Mummymon, and then like throw in like Oikawa and Malamyotismon there. And then I still have to do some of the other Digi Destined too at this point in time. So that's what I have for this one. I thank you very much for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you have a nice rest of your day. Bye. If I'm not capable of being a friend, that would prove once and for all if I have a heart or not. Of course you're capable. Everybody's capable of being someone's friend. But what if, always with the what ifs, what if my aunt had a mustache? She'd be my uncle. She would? Your logic confuses me.